Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, today in the Dungeon Dive, we are going to be taking a look at Gloom of Kilforth and Shadows of Kilforth. Gloom of Kilforth was the original game, and then Shadows came out a couple years after, and it is a standalone expansion for Gloom of Kilforth. I have both of my sets mixed together, and we'll talk a little bit about how you can do that as we progress through this video. In this video, we're going to do a broad overview of the game I have going on right now. We will talk a little bit about my character and my adventure so far, and then I will go into 5 detailed topics about the game. So, Gloom of Kilforth is an overland adventure game where you are going to be working your way through the land of Kilforth, and the land of Kilforth will be represented by 25 cards. You will have these location cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 5, and you will set those up. When you combine the sets, you will combine the 25 location cards from each set, and then you will deal out a number of cards, 6 cards from each of the regions, and you will make a stack, and then you will deal them out into this grid. So we have different regions here. We have the Plains region. We have the Badlands region. We have the Mountains region. And we have the Forest region. Each one of these regions has its own deck of adventure cards, and once you combine the sets, you have a lot of different kinds of adventures to go on in each region. You can face different things like strangers or enemies, places, events, all kinds of different things. Each one represented by some absolutely gorgeous art. And while the art is real, oh wow, look at that, Jackie Chan, the Drunken Master. I've actually never seen that card before. While the art is very, very good, it is very beautiful. It's also a little bit maybe too beautiful in some ways. Like every single inhabitant of Kilforth is absolutely gorgeous. Even the farming peasants are just super, super attractive people. So you won't find very many ugly people in Kilforth, I guess. It's kind of like anime land. So while you are adventuring through the land of Kilforth, you will be trying to gain titles, and titles will give you certain kinds of bonuses to your character's stats and allow you to do certain things. You will also be trying to find certain items, and items are armor, weapons, jewelry, trinkets, all kinds of different things that you can equip to your character. There are also allies that you can try to influence to join your party of adventuring heroes. And each one of these allies will usually allow you to break a rule in some way, and will also add to your character's stats, so they can add more dice when they do their challenges. And then finally, there are also spells, and spells will also help add to your different abilities, mainly your knowledge stat there, and they will also give you special benefits, special things that you can do on your turn. So when you start a game of Shadows of Kilforth or Gloom of Kilforth, you will be creating a character by combining a class and a race. And I am a Diabolist Werewolf. That's kind of a cool combination there. And then each one of your classes and your race combination will give you a certain number of stats. So you have a fight, knowledge, sneaking, and influence. And those, when combined with all of your other items or your abilities or spells or allies, those will tell you how many dice you roll in a challenge. And in this game, 5s and 6s are considered successes. So you're going to be building a dice pool, and then most challenges will have a certain number of successes that you need in order to defeat that challenge. Most of them are around 3 or 4, so you're going to roll dice and try to get that many successes. Now, in a game of Kilforth, you do not need to get all of your successes at once. Each time you take an action, you will be able to roll your dice, and you will be able to continue to add successes as long as it is in the same turn. So you can have one success, and then you can keep going. You can spend another action to roll your dice pool again to get another 2 and 3, and so on. As long as you can get all of your successes in one turn, then you complete that challenge. Additionally, along with your character's class and race, they also have a skill deck. And the skills you will level up from level 1 to level 4. And each one of those levels has 2 skills associated with it. So as you level up, you can choose which skills you want to take in order to upgrade your character. This is a really cool aspect. I'm on level 2 right now, and my level 1 skill I chose was Jujitsu. And for a free action, my foe rolls 1 less die in battle. And I also chose a doctor. For a free action, I can heal 1 HP. That's really handy because HP in this game, hit points, not only are they your life points, and if you go down to 0, you die, and you kind of have to start back at the beginning square again, the beginning location, and you lose some items. But each HP that you have also dictates how many action points you get at the beginning of each day. And so if you only start a turn with 2 HP, you're only going to be able to take 2 actions on that day. And then finally, for your character, you are going to choose a saga. And each saga is in 4 chapters. I am on chapter 3 of this current saga, Capture the Lawbreaker. And each saga, each chapter will have a little paragraph telling you about the story. It'll tell you what you need to do to complete that chapter and the keywords required. These keywords correspond to the different adventure cards, to the different events and strangers and enemies and things that you are discovering out in the land. So the main thrust of the game is to move from one location to the next, looking for things that have that keyword. So to complete chapter 1, I would need to take an action, a regale action. That is basically you are declaring that you have conquered this quest. You spend 5 gold, and then you have to have items either in your hand or equipped to your character that have keywords stranger, enemy, and in a 1 or 2 player game, planes. To go through chapter 2, I would have to do the same thing, and I would need another stranger, a title, and then a Badlands card. Chapter 3 is a little bit different. This is called an interlude, and here I need to do a strength 5 influence test at a certain location. And then once you go through chapter 4, when you complete chapter 4, then you get to your final chapter. And the final chapter is kind of a more difficult thing that you need to do. But if you conquer your final chapter, then you get your character's totem. And this is kind of an ultimate item that they get to help in completing their quest. And to win a game of Shadows of Kilforth or Gloom of Kilforth, you are going to be competing against an ancient evil. And when you combine the sets, there are about 10 different ancient evils. Right now, I am playing against the Bishop of Pride. And each ancient evil will come with an abilities card that tells you the special powers that ancient has available to them. Each ancient will also have a deck of plot cards. And at certain points during the game, these cards will come out onto the board, and they will have a little quest associated with them. And you need to defeat them because if there are any undefeated plot cards on the map at the end of the game when you face the ancient evil, each one of those will add an ability to the ancient evil. So this game does combine some light threat management style mechanisms to its adventuring game mechanisms. There's also a pretty strict time limit, although, well, it's strict in the sense that it's hard to get time back, but you have a lot of turns. The game has 25 turns, and you keep track of those with a night deck. When you combine your 2 sets, you will mix together the night decks, and then you will draw 25 in order to start your game. And the night cards are all kinds of different, really bad, usually really bad things that happen. They will change the face of the board. They might add weather. They might add some difficult enemies, or they might tell you to do certain things depending on a faction that you choose at the beginning of the game. There are 2 factions that you can play under. These don't crop up too often, but when they do, it is kind of exciting to see. And some examples of some of the night cards that I have faced are a lot of weather cards. So I went through some howling gales, a fierce storm, pouring rain, and now finally all is well. I had some really bad luck with weather. Okay, so that was the brief overview. And now we're going to talk about 5 things about Shadows of Kilforth and Gloom of Kilforth. Number 1 is combining the two sets together. Whenever these kinds of games have expansions, I always like to combine all of my cards so I have, big giant stacks of items and encounter cards and all kinds of different spells and allies and all of that fun stuff, all of that fun variety that we look for in these kinds of games. One of the issues with combining these sets are the location cards, because a lot of cards and a lot of systems in this game require certain locations to be out. For instance, you might draw a card and it might say to place something on the wheeled heart, or maybe you need to find something in the serene lake in order to complete a quest. Well, because these are randomized from a pack from a deck of 50, the chances of that specific card being out aren't 100%. And so they created this system in order to allow you to combine your games together regardless of what locations you are using. And that is super, super cool. So whenever a card tells you to place something on a specific location when you have combined sets, you will draw a token. If the token needs to be drawn because of the draw of a night card, you will draw a token from the night stack. And when you draw that token, you look at it, and that tells you what card to place that thing on. So for instance, if I needed to place some kind of enemy on because I drew a night card, I would draw this token. I would look at the grid here and I would place it on that card. The arrow is pointing up. The arrow is pointing north towards the top of your table. So this card, this location would be, in my setup here, would be the Green Meadows. And so I would have to place something at the Green Meadows. Whenever you draw a reward and a reward tells you to place something on the map, then you draw a token from the rewards pool, and it is the same thing. So this is a really neat, a simple system for randomizing locations depending on what kind of item and what kind of thing needs to be randomized. I really do like that. Number 2 is I like how things come out as quests and as rumors. When you get a reward, you don't just take that item immediately and you're not able to use that item immediately until you go on a little quest to find that item. As an example, after defeating an enemy, I was able to draw an item card. The item I drew was this Jingasa. This wide, round, reinforced helm resembles a peasant's hat and can be flipped over to serve as a cooking pot. So in a lot of these kinds of adventure games, when you draw an item, you immediately get that item and you can use it. Well, in the Kilforth games, these items that you draw as rewards, they are drawn as rumors. Maybe you found a treasure map after killing an enemy, or maybe after searching through a tomb, you found a clue about something. Now, normally when these come out, you would need to go to a certain location in order to actually find this item and equip it in order to use it. But in this game, because we have mixed the sets and there is no guarantee that the Sea of Clouds is going to be out, I would draw one of the reward tokens and I would place that on the card. And that card is now found at that location. So I could come over here and that would actually be at the Towers of Cain. So I would need to make my way there and then take an action in order to find the Jingasa. I love that system because each item that you discover is now kind of like a little mini side quest. I also found a pepper pot that allows me to skip an enemy combat because I can throw that pepper in their face, pocket sand. And then I also I went to an arena. I was forced to go into this gladiatorial arena, and I defeated the enemies there. and now I need to go travel to this location there in order to claim my title as executioner. That is super cool. It does add a little additional step in obtaining your rewards, but I enjoy it because it makes every little thing in the game a kind of sub quest, a little mini quest, a side quest to go on. Okay, point number 3. This could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how you feel about story. Gloom of Kilforth and Shadow of Kilforth are games that require the players to connect the narrative dots in order to have some kind of cohesive story. If you are not willing to put in the effort to connect those dots, there's a good chance that these games could feel very dry to you. They could feel a little lackluster in the narrative department. Sometimes when I play these games, they do feel that way to me. If I'm not in the mood to put the effort in. But if you are in the mood to put the effort in to connect the dots, they can create some interesting moments, some involving scenarios, and some fun times exploring the world and interacting with the various NPCs and enemies and places. So one of the things that you will need to do if you want to get into the narrative is you will need to look at those keywords that you're looking for and then connect those to the chapter paragraph to determine why they are important. You know, why do I need to find a stranger, an enemy in the plains in order to complete chapter 1? And then as you are exploring the world, you need to take a look at the different places that you are visiting in the various locations and then kind of come up with a narrative reason why those things exist and how they are connected to your chapters. The game gives the players enough dots to do that, but it's not pre-written for you. You're not stopping to read in a large storybook. There is not an ongoing cohesive narrative to the game. So just know that going in. I happen to enjoy games that allow me to connect my own narrative dots, but sometimes I'm not in the mood to do that. And if I'm not in the mood to do that, there are better games, better adventure games to play than the Shadows of Kilforth. And so these are games that I turn to only when I do want to put in that extra effort. Point number 4 is the documentation. The documentation for these games is pretty good. I think the rulebook is pretty well written. It has examples of turns. It has all of the components and cards and details about those. It has a pretty good index and a couple of glossaries and a couple of summaries of your turns. So this is very handy. It's a pretty easy game to learn from the rulebook. And Shadows of Kilforth also comes with these really handy reference guides. One of the reference guides is a whole setup, game flow, a detailed listing of all of your actions, how to perform deeds, how to perform tests, how to go through combat, what you get for rewards, and your various restrictions and what the attributes, icons, and other important game terms mean. This is very handy, and because the game is pretty fiddly, I look at this a lot. So it's very handy to have. The second player aid that this comes with is a whole sheet of different kinds of variants and detailed instructions on what to do when you are combining your games. So if you're combining Kilforth games, you can do this. You have various difficulty settings that you can play as. You have all kinds of different variants you can play. You can play a team game. You can play with more aggressive enemies. You can do a campaign play. Fate manipulation, a follow action, fortified keep, a gloom city quest. There are all kinds of different ways to play the game. When those are combined with the various difficulty settings and the various game length options, you really can tailor this game to be a game that you want to play. And then on the other side here, we have a couple of other variants such as the veteran heroes, and then rules on using those knight tokens and reward tokens when you are combining the sets. This is a great sheet of variants. I like that these are kind of, it's almost like they went to BGG and found all of the house rules that people were using to play Glooms of Kilforth, and then codified those into official variants for Shadows of Kilforth. Very, very cool. Point number 5 is this game is fiddly, and this is the main negative. If you aren't playing this game on any kind of regular basis, there is a good chance that learning this game will take some time. You will have to remember a lot of things. It's been a long time since I played, and I had to look up stuff a lot while I was playing, just because there are a number of steps to every little phase, every little thing that you are doing in this game. A lot of adventure games are more simple. They're not as in depth, and they don't have as many things going on. So if you're looking for something that is just, oh my gosh, a dog ninja. That's the first time I've ever seen that. That is an ally. I would love to have that ally. I just got distracted by a dog ninja. Snuck up on me. But yeah, if you are just wanting to sit down and play a simple adventure game, I would not recommend playing Shadows of Kilforth or Gloom of Kilforth. If you want something where you are going to have to put in a little bit more thought, it's a little slower, maybe a more contemplative adventure game, then I think this is a really good choice. So just know that going in, just know that the game is fiddly. There are a lot of moving pieces. There are a lot of keywords. There are a lot of exceptions to a lot of rules, and that is one thing just to keep in mind. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed returning to the world of Kilforth. We will talk to you later. Bye-bye.